Hey everybody, this is Pastor Terry Roberts, and we are talking about developing the leader within you from the book Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. This is number 6, which is attitude. If you haven't gotten the book, I really encourage you to do that. And also the workbook has some great exercises that I think could really help you kind of do a self-examination and just kind of judge how you're doing with some things. The exercises help you to be honest with yourself, maybe in a way that you wouldn't without the book. So I encourage you to take advantage of those books. Interesting, in the book, Maxwell says, let's begin by you writing down someone you really admire. And so that's a great exercise. Who's in your life that you really admire? What is it about them that you admire and why? And what you'll find is almost every time people write down people with good attitudes, people that when they're around them, they lift their spirits, they add to their tank, they have a good attitude. You might say they're optimistic. It's almost exclusively based on their attitude. Those are the people that you like to be around. Who is it that you like to be around? Some people it's necessary to be around, but if you get to choose, who do you want to be around? It's almost always someone with a good attitude. I was thinking of the different politicians through the years. At my age, I've been through a bunch of them, and I've seen the different leadership styles. And in the 70s, I was alive during the energy crisis, and at the same time, Iran had hostages for 444 years, and so many things were going on. There were gas lines. It was a tough time. And the president at that time got up and gave a speech, and it was the malaise crisis of confidence speech. It was really a downer. And he talked about, here's what he said in the speech: the true problems of our nation are deeper than gasoline lines or energy shortages, deeper even than inflation or recession. After quoting a series of ordinary people, this politician continued, all the legislation in the world can't fix what's wrong with America. The threat is nearly invisible in ordinary ways. It's a crisis of confidence. And he goes on, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And not that some of the things that he was saying weren't true. It wasn't that they weren't sometimes facts. It's just that it was such a downer. Now compare that with the person who replaced that president in office. His campaign theme was, it's morning in America. And I remember watching those campaign ads just thinking, wow, that gives me hope. It's talking about the future. It's a good attitude. It's optimism. It lets me know that there is something we can do. The world isn't over. And so we don't want to always focus on the dark winter of what could happen. It doesn't mean you don't focus on reality. It just means attitude matters. For instance, in your business or skill, whatever it is, if you're incompetent, your attitude is not going to be enough. But if you know what you're doing, your attitude will make the difference. You would much rather deal with someone who has a good attitude and skill versus someone with good skill and bad attitude. With doctors, they call it bedside manner. That's another way of saying your attitude. How do you deal with people in your life? What kind of atmosphere do you make the room? Maxwell says in his book, a victim is a person who suffers a loss because of the action of others. It's very easy to get a victim mentality. You can be a victim or you can be a victor. If you choose to be a victim, you have put yourself in a hole that you may not be able to crawl out of. Victimhood is a choice. Bad things happen to everyone. I think of Joseph in the Bible. It went from one bad thing to the next, but his attitude always helped him climb out of the pit he was in to the next promotion. He always went from the pit to promotion because of his attitude. Attitude is huge. Attitude is how you react to the things that happen to you. How do you react to the circumstances in life? What is your perspective about it? A pilot has an instrument called an attitude indicator. And it lets him know, basically, in my simple layman's terms, how his nose is pointed. Is he going up or going down? What is he doing? So your attitude indicator shows you what you're aiming at. Where's your nose going? And you can say the same thing in your personal life. Where is my nose pointed, so to speak? Is it just taking me down and maybe the people all around me? But it's really important how you think and how you project, either being a victor or a victim. A leader's mindset or attitude is one of the most important aspects you possess. Think of the people that you do business with and think of their attitude. I'm thinking of my wife, who goes to several different stores within 10 miles of our house that are probably a little bit more expensive than normal. She's willing to pay a few extra dollars because of the attitude of the people. She'll always say, they're so nice to me there. They do extra things for me there. At one of the stores, they'll even send her cards. And so their skills with dealing with people are so good. Their service, their attitude is what draws her. Even though she might be able to get the same thing, at a better price, she's willing to pay extra for the attitude. Most people are, at least a little bit. Attitude may make you a winner. Will not make you a winner if you're incompetent, but it makes a difference between success and failure. You still have to know your business. You still have to know what you're doing. Now, JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy's inaugural speech in the 60s was something we all have quoted many times. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. In other words, it lifted people's spirits. It challenged them. It wasn't pessimistic. It was optimistic. It was really saying, you can make a difference. You could even say, he was saying, your attitude, the way you look at life can make a difference. The way you look at life matters. The Bible says have the same attitude, our mindset, our worldview that Jesus Christ had. The way you look at life, the way you look at others, the way you look at God, the way you look at everything in your life matters. Your attitude makes a difference. Ephesians 4 says you were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds. To be made new in the attitude of your minds. Golda Meir, the Prime Minister of Israel, said the only thing Israel possesses is spirit. In other words, she was basically saying we got nothing, but because of our attitude, nothing is going to stop us. We're going on anyway. I love that. I had a friend in Scotland who said, I really like the way the Americans do business when they come over here, because when they let someone go, they don't give them 2 weeks to hang around and turn everybody's attitude sour. They just say, okay, we're letting you go. Get your stuff. We're paying you for the 2 weeks, but we'll see you. Go ahead and go. They don't let that attitude, if it's bad, spread, because attitude is contagious. If it's a good attitude or a bad attitude, it's contagious. And the people around you catch your attitude, even if they don't want to. You develop your attitude from things like these: personality, environment, how others treated you, self-image, peers, who you're hanging out with influences your attitude, how you think, and then beliefs. A major university said 13% of success on the job is related to understanding the product, while 87% is due to understanding the people. And I would even add how you treat the people. My attitude can be my best friend or my worst enemy. It can kill or create momentum. Another study that's very interesting is people stop buying products, according to this survey, for these reasons. 1% because they die, 3% because they move, 5% because they're influenced by friends, just say buy something else, 9% say, well, the competition got you, they're doing a better job, 14% just don't like the product, but 68% has to do with attitude. It's an attitude of indifference shown by an employee. In other words, think of all the times that you've gone someplace wanting to buy something and someone didn't treat you good. I know of a guy who wanted to buy a luxury car. He lived in England. He wanted to buy a luxury car. But every time he would go to this dealer, and he was willing to pay a lot of money for this car, but every time he went to the dealership, they kind of treated him bad. And he just could never get over that. So he actually bought a car that he didn't want the most, just because he couldn't stand the attitude of the person that he was dealing with. And I'm telling you guys, that is a big deal. You could probably stop right now and think of 2 or 3 situations where you were wanting to buy something, but someone talked you out of it because of the way they treated you or because of a bad attitude. Think about that. Here's a good attitude indicator. People around me notice. In other words, if my attitude is bad, the people around you know it's bad. Let them be honest with you. My relationship with my coworkers is strained. They just say, wow, I just don't like to be around that person. I become cynical when I got a bad attitude. That's really true. And my value of other people lowers. I just don't like people anymore. If my attitude is bad, I don't want to be around anyone. So it actually affects the way I treat people and think about people. How do I choose a good attitude? I believe that what happens in me and who I am is becoming more valuable than what happens to me. What is happening in me is more important than what is happening to me. Circumstances are temporary, but who you're becoming because of how you deal with circumstances really is the bottom line. You need to stop blaming others and drop the victim card. If you are developing a bad attitude, take a look at your life. You're probably blaming everyone else. Realize faith and hope are stronger than fear. Faith and hope are stronger than fear. I love that. Spend some time with people who help you stay positive. If you're having a problem with attitude, get around some people with a good attitude. They'll influence you. It's contagious. It'll rub off. Find some good attitude models. It's interesting. John Maxwell had a tape club. Enjoy Life, it was called. INJOY, Enjoy Life. And he set out cassette tapes. That's how long ago it was. And I would get these tapes, and after preaching multiple times on Sunday, I would listen to a John Maxwell tape, and it would lift my spirits. And I did that for years, where I would literally just go out and sit somewhere and listen to that tape and just let it feed me and lift my perspective, so that even though I was really, really tired, it made me just be optimistic. And so he really helped me keep my attitude up. Who is it in your life that you need to watch or listen to or be with to cause you to lift your spirit and have a better attitude? There's a great statement. Mistakes are only failures if they're not turned into wisdom. A mistake is only a failure if you don't turn that failure into wisdom. Failing is such a part of life. You know, some people are not doing things because they're afraid of failing. You need to fail. You absolutely need to fail. If you're not failing anywhere in your life, you're not pushing yourself. Failure is such a part of life. The bottom line is, how do you deal with failure? And maybe it's something somebody did to you. Maybe it's something that you did. How are you processing failures in your life? And are you using it to get wisdom? If you get wisdom from a failure, you are growing, you are going forward, and your attitude can get to the point where no matter what people do to you, it doesn't change who you are. You can actually get to the place in life where you can go into a coffee shop or something, and somebody can really mistreat you. And if your attitude is right, you can shake it off. You don't spend the whole day whining about, oh, I wonder what I did, I wonder why, blah, blah, blah. And so you can actually get to the point where even when people mistreat you, it doesn't become a part of who you are. You learn to shake it off quick. And the more you live in a life where you're dealing with people all the time, people are going to say and do things. And if your attitude is bad or you're insecure about that, everything they do to you will just shatter the glass of your life. You can live in a place, not that you get hard-hearted or get this hard shell in your life, but simply that no one can get you out of a good attitude because you choose your attitude. I love that. Here's the points that he made in the book. Disown your helplessness. Disown your helplessness. Stop thinking that you're helpless. The reason some political leaders project ruin is so that they can then say, look at me, I can help you. The world is falling apart, but I can help you. Don't buy into that. Disown your helplessness and start accepting responsibility for the life God gave you. Second thing he says is take the bull by the horns. In other words, take the initiative with your attitude. He says there's 4 questions, and it's really, really powerful. What do I want? What will it cost? Am I willing to pay that cost? And when will I do it? And most people will answer the first 3 in the affirmative, but it doesn't matter if you don't do number 4. It may not be money that you're having to spend for this. It might be energy, it might be sacrifice. Are you willing to pay that cost? And then the most important one is, when should I start? And the answer to that is now. What do I want? What will it cost? Am I willing to pay it? And when should I start? The third thing is enter the no whining zone. Actually put your attitude in charge of your emotions. Don't let your emotions, just run wild. Just put your attitude in charge of them and say, my attitude is going to determine how I express my emotions. And enter the no whining zone. I could even call this the no drama zone. If you're not careful, you can get into the habit of just continually talking about circumstances in your life. And you may not even realize that you're just telling every bad thing that's happened to you in the past, whatever. And everybody is hearing about your problems. And not that you don't need a friend that you can be honest with, but there are some people that don't know how to flip that switch to actually turn that off. And they often don't realize that it's whining. And so be very careful about the no whining zone. Cultivate gratitude. The more you Think about what's happening good in your life, the good things that have happened. Be thankful to God. Be thankful for your life. You're breathing today. Wow. Cultivate gratitude. Be thankful for something. Then he says, put on a new pair of shoes, which has to do with your relationships and really listening to people. And we've heard people say, walk around in someone else's shoes. The whole idea there means listen to other people's perspective. It will help you get a good attitude. You can't just get your attitude from the things in your life. You got to look out at reality and say, what's really happening out there? It helps you to think properly. Nurture your passion is number 5. I love this. He says, Ken Hemphill says in the book, vision does not ignite growth. Passion does. Passion fuels vision, and vision is the focus of passion. I'm going to say that again because that is so important. We say, if we get a vision, that just motivates us to reach that goal. We set a goal, and that vision just motivates me to go for it. And that's not true. Passion is what motivates you. The thing that's driving you is your passion, your hunger, your passion for life, your passion for helping people, whatever that is. And then vision just gives you the plan to do your passion. Vision is not the most important thing. Passion is. Vision just tells you how you're going to express that passion. So that is so important. Leaders who are passionate about their call create vision. Wow, that's important. Number 6, exceed expectations. Exceed expectations. Again, I was talking about Becky going to several stores, paying a little bit extra money because they're going to take care of you. They're going to do extra. I remember going to a car dealership, and my son actually worked for this company, but I went to a car dealership in Denver, and this girl was so good. She walked me out to the car. She did all of these things. She went the extra mile, and she didn't have to. And I wrote a letter to her company and just said, wow, you need to promote this girl. This girl did good. And she just really exceeded expectations. So I love that. Think of companies in your life that exceed expectations. Think of the companies that have really good customer service. They've really trained their people to treat you good. It makes a difference. People are dragging a chain through life oftentimes. Having a good attitude lifts people. It's amazing how small a thing can make such a big difference in someone's life. It's really huge. A little thing, a little gesture of kindness, a good attitude can lift their spirits like you wouldn't believe. The next thing is never be satisfied. Now the Bible teaches to be content. The difference between that and this is there is such a thing as a positive discontent. Knowing you can do better, knowing that there's more potential than you've tapped into. I like what it says in the book. Benchmark against your potential, not your past. Don't just look at how I did last year. I need to do better. Look rather at your potential and say, in light of my potential, in light of who God says I am and what can happen, how well am I doing with that as a benchmark? Maxwell talks a lot about learning from failure. I haven't always done that well. Sometimes failure knocks me out of the saddle, and I have to get my groove back, so to speak. If you can get to the point where failure doesn't paralyze you, it's amazing how quickly you can recover from failure. Embrace failure as a way to go forward. It will actually help you reach your goal if you turn that failure and mistake into wisdom and learning from it. Here's a great example. The hummingbird and the vulture both fly over the desert. Vultures only see rotting meat because that's what they're looking for. Hummingbirds see the blossoms of colorful plants. Vultures live off of death. Hummingbirds live off of life. Each bird knows what it's looking for. We all do. And we always find it. Think about that. Vultures are looking for rotting meat. They find it. Hummingbirds are looking for flowers. They find it. The question is, what are you looking for? Dale Carnegie said, be master of your moods. We sometimes have the idea that moods are something that just take us over. We don't have any choice. You have a decision. Attitude is a result of a choice that you make and a decision that you make. Now, if there's something physically wrong or you're having a crisis in life, that's different. But day in and day out, what is your attitude indicator set on? Is it taking you for a plane crash, or is it lifting you above the clouds? Where are you headed? Great story. There's a carpenter who was getting ready to retire. He was older and he was just tired. And he was working for a guy and he just kind of had enough of it. And so the builder said to the carpenter, I want you to build one more house as a favor, if you'll do it, please. So he convinced the carpenter to build one more house. And the boss said, don't spare any expense. Do it very well. Take your time. Build it well. Use good materials. But the carpenter just wanted to quit and wanted to retire. And so he used shoddy materials and just did average work on a lot of it. And when he was done, the boss came to him, handed him the keys, and said, this is your house. I wanted to build this for you. And so the man built the house he was going to live in. What a great picture of attitude. I think we all have to live in the house that we build with our attitude. We all have to live in the house that we've built. What house are you building? How is your attitude? I love that story. The Greek definition of attitude is the disposition or influence which fills and governs the soul of anyone. The disposition and influence which fills and governs the soul of anyone. I think it's really important how you look at life. I think your perspective makes all the difference in the world. God bless you guys. Have a good attitude.